All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something really fascinating and, kind of scary. The world of advanced persistent threats. You've probably heard the acronym, APTs, but what are they? Really? Let's dive in.
I love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. Forget your typical smash-and-grab hacker. APTs are, well, they're the house guests from hell. They don't just break in, they move in. They unpack their bags, put their feet up, and start quietly raiding your digital fridge for secrets, sometimes for years. And the whole time, you might not even know they're there.
Okay, so first up, let's break down the anatomy of these digital ghosts. What actually makes an APT, well, an APT? You know, the name itself is actually the perfect cheat sheet. Let's break it down. Advanced. We're talking seriously sophisticated. Custom-built tools, not off-the-shelf stuff. Persistent. This is key. It means they play the long game. They are masters of lurking, hanging out in a system for months, sometimes even years. And threat? Yeah, that one's pretty self-explanatory. They are not there to share funny cat videos, that's for sure.
And just to be super clear here, this isn't your lone hacker in a hoodie, okay? We're talking about the cyber aristocracy. These groups have insane resources. We're talking nation-state level backing and a level of patience that is just staggering. They're not after your credit card number. They're playing a completely different game for much, much bigger stakes.
All right, so we know what they are. But the million-dollar question is, who are they? Who's actually behind the keyboard for these massive, complex attacks? Let's meet the cyber specters.
Yeah, we are absolutely in the big leagues now. These aren't just hacking groups. They're often professional, salaried teams working for a country's intelligence agency or military cyber unit. I mean, think James Bond-level villainy. But you know, they probably have government-issued laptops and a pension plan. And man, it's a real who's who of global cyber players. You've got groups like Russia's APT-28. You might know them as Fancy Bear, who've been tied to things like election interference. Then you have China's APT-41, or Double Dragon, famous for industrial-scale intellectual property theft. And you can't forget North Korea's Lazarus Group. They're infamous for using their skills to pull off massive cyber heists, basically acting as a digital ATM for the regime.
Okay, so how do they actually pull this stuff off? What's their strategy? Let's dig into the APT playbook. And spoiler alert, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
It usually unfolds in a few key stages. First up is reconnaissance. They are meticulously casing the joint, sometimes for months, learning everything they can. Then they make their move, the initial compromise. This is often something as simple as a really convincing fake email. Once they're in, it's all about lateral movement, quietly hopping from one system to another, gaining more access. And finally, the end game, data exfiltration. That's when they start slowly, carefully, sneaking the data out, trying not to set off a single alarm.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It goes right back to that word, persistent. Their patience is their #1 weapon. They are so good at blending into the normal, everyday hum of a network that they just become part of the background noise, all while, silently walking away with the crown jewels.
But why? Why go to all this trouble? What's the point of these huge, expensive, super risky operations? Well, as you might guess, it's all tied up in geopolitics and power.
When you look at the why, it really breaks down into 3 main categories. The biggest piece of the pie, by far, is good old-fashioned espionage. Stealing government secrets, nabbing corporate R&D, that kind of thing. Then you've got sabotage, which is all about disruption or even destruction of critical infrastructure. And then there's a slice for pure financial gain, which for some state actors is their primary mission.
I think this quote is just brilliant because it captures the vibe perfectly. On one hand, you've got these high-stakes geopolitical chess moves. And on the other hand, well, sometimes it's really just about being petty. It can be about embarrassing a rival nation or getting revenge for a perceived slight.
All right, now for the really juicy stuff. This is where it starts to read less like a tech manual and more like a spy thriller. Let's walk through a hall of infamy and look at some of the most famous and infamous APT attacks in history.
And when you look at the timeline, you can see a really clear trend. These things are just getting bigger, bolder, and way more impactful. From Stuxnet back in 2010, which was a total game changer, all the way up to recent massive breaches,
the stakes keep getting higher.
So let's start with Stuxnet. This was a jaw-dropper. It was the moment everyone realized a piece of code could actually break things in the real world. This digital weapon, supposedly delivered via USB drives, got into Iran's nuclear facilities and literally made their centrifuges spin out of control and destroy themselves. It was the first time code was undeniably a weapon.
And then, for a totally different flavor of attack, you've got the Sony hack. This one, widely attributed to North Korea, wasn't about stealing nuclear secrets. It was about a movie, a comedy. It was pure retaliation, turning a major Hollywood studio inside out and leaking everything, all because of what seems like a bruised ego. Geopolitics meets pettiness, right?
Fast forward to SolarWinds. Now this was an absolute masterclass in spycraft. An APT group, thought to be from Russia, didn't attack their targets directly. Now, they were way smarter. They attacked the software that their targets used. It's called a supply chain attack. It's like, instead of breaking into one house, you poison the town's water supply to get everyone at once. Just brilliant and terrifying.
And the cost? I mean, just look at that number. The estimated economic damage from this single campaign was over $100 billion. That's not just some abstract tech problem. That's a massive, real-world economic event caused by a digital operation.
So let's bring it all together. What's the big takeaway here? It's that APTs aren't just hacking. They are an extension of state power. You've got professional, state-backed teams playing a slow, strategic game for influence, for secrets, and for cold, hard cash. It's conflict for the 21st century. Quieter, cheaper, and sometimes a lot more effective. So you might be wondering, how on earth do you defend against this? It sounds impossible, right? Well, the good news is you can. While the attacks are advanced, a lot of the defense comes down to nailing the fundamentals. Things like multi-factor authentication. That's just adding more locks on the door. Patching your systems. That's closing the open windows they're looking for. And yeah, sophisticated AI tools are now getting really good at spotting these ghosts hiding in the machine. The key is vigilance. You have to be as persistent as they are.
So we'll leave you with this question to chew on. These groups are the digital boogeymen of our era, and they are out there quietly rattling the doorknobs of the internet every single day. The real question we all have to ask ourselves is, have we checked our locks? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.